Welcome back, everybody, to Two Guys in a Stack of Comics. My name is Reed. Along with me, as always, is Mike.
Hey
Mike, we're pretty
everybody.
close to our little three-part talk about villains here. We talked about what we thought makes a great villain. In the first part, we talked about where some of this has gone wrong. And then today we talk about where we think this could get fixed, where we think some of these villainous characters could become menacing again or just interesting and on the board a different way. Mike, the example I'll use to kick this off and just kind of get your 2 cents on it. Venom. I love Venom as a character. But Venom used to be this kind of menacing, terrifying force when Todd McFarlane drew him, where he was legitimately one of Spider Man's greatest foes. And while I think it was interesting to see a little bit more of a heroic take on Venom, where he was the lethal protector kind of thing, Venom now is basically an Avenger. I mean, Venom, if he shows up in a story, you really don't think Venom's a bad guy anymore. And to me, I think that is where we've gone wrong with some of these. And Sony did a whole universe of these movies that tanked with Morbius and Craven, where it's let's take a Spider Man villain and they're actually heroic. To me, with the villains, they got to go back and give these characters their edge again. They've got to go back and make them menacing again. That would be my perspective. Do you think that's something you see as well, where they've tried too hard to make the villains good
Yeah,
guys or something like that?
it was an experiment that worked for a little while, where you took the edge off the bad guys and made them seem more sympathetic and even transformed them into anti-heroes or whatever.
Mhm.
And then you took put the edge on the good guys and turned them into not so good,
Yep,
and kind of transposed the whole thing. But I do think it's kind of run its course where you can do that with the like we talked about in the first couple of videos. The Venom's got to be dastardly evil, a truly good villain. You have to really the best villains instill hatred when you go and you see that villain on the comic book cover on Wednesday, and you're like, oh no, this is going to be, this is going to be a challenge. This is going to be a bad one. And then you get into the story and you start to really loathe that venomous that Venom character, and Venom is just one of, many, right? That
mm,
have kind of been softened to the point where, you don't know if they're hero or not,
yeah,
and it's just kind of weird. I think it's an Elseworlds kind of thing, like we like to say, but to put it in to main continuity and continue it, I think is kind of odd, and I think they're kind of run out of steam. I think we're at the end of that, but I don't know. There's ones like Harley Quinn, who's now she's like
they make her like she's part of the Bat family. Yeah,
yeah, she's a good girl now, and forget about all that murdering and stuff that she did a while back.
yeah,
And the X-Men with Magneto is really harsh. But yeah, Harley was best as a villain. Don't you think? I mean,
for
and
sure,
now
for sure.
she's on like lunch pails for little girls and stuff, and it's like, what's going on here? Like
Well,
she's
and even the popularity of a character, villains can be popular. Darth Vader is not a good guy. And I think, Vader gets redeemed at the end, but why Vader's popular is how menacing a foe he was. I think story wise, you love that he's redeemed at the end, but that's not why people love Darth Vader. Darth Vader was intimidating and menacing and had incredible one liners, obviously delivered by James Earl Jones. And
yeah.
that's why people like the character. You can still have Harley Quinn be a popular character, but you don't need her to be teaming up with Batman and Robin. And I think we've seen too much of that. The X-Men, like you pointed out, I mean, they're hanging out with Mystique and Apocalypse and different characters where it's like, Apocalypse being able to hang out with the X-Men in any way. It's like Cyclops, this guy kidnapped your child and like
Yeah,
poisoned
yeah.
it. Like you just have Mr. Sinister hanging out. Like they put the techno organic virus in your baby. And I think that's the thing is what happens is yes, these are fake characters. Yes, it's a fictional world. I understand that completely. But in the world of comic books, you're supposed to take these salt plots a little bit seriously. And the thing is, when you
Yeah.
write the characters, is so unbelievably being like, ah, well, that happened. It's like, no, that's not good writing. It's poor and inconsistent writing, especially when these characters they're forgiving haven't done anything that's really of redemption. Right? We have seen some characters. Like Venom, you could say Venom has kind of redeemed himself a bit. I think it makes Venom significantly less interesting, but I do get that perspective. I think the other part, Mike, this is one that I think breaks villains, period. We've got to let the villains be correctly aligned in terms of what they can do. And what I mean by this, in the last, I'd say 8 years since Tom King started on Batman, Joker took over Gotham. Scarecrow took over Gotham. Bane took over Gotham. Failsafe took over Gotham. I believe there was another one where the Riddler and Joker were having a war that took over Gotham. And it's like that role, there should only be a select few characters who can take over like an entire city. Because when
or
everybody
planet.
can do it, it
Yeah.
makes them markedly unimpressive. Right? If that had been, hey, Bane did this, and Bane is the only one who could do it, that makes Bane great. But when it's like,
Right.
well, Joe, it's this week it's Joker's turn to take over the whole city, and this week it's this. I think they've got to get back to where there's only so many characters who can be like these huge threat levels. And I think you look at the great stories that we love with characters. Joker stories, when they try to do Joker taking over all of Gotham, that's stupid. The best Joker stories is he took over Arkham Asylum, or the Joker kidnapped Jim Gordon and he's on a circus area, and he's those are the classics we love. The Killing Joke, the Arkham series video games, where it's like the Joker is trying to get one specific victory. Because the Joker doesn't want to rule Gotham City. He wants to screw up Batman's day and cause as much chaos as he can. And I think we've just gotten to a point where they've given villains this ability of like, well, how do we use this villain? Well, let's have him take over the whole planet or take over the whole universe. And it's like, no, that should be saved for Thanos, for Apocalypse, for Darkseid. That would be my perspective on it, Mike. How do you feel that is right now?
That's all part of the one-upsmanship that we've been one-upsming since 1990, the crisis upon the crisis upon the crisis
Yeah.
upon the crisis. That's all part of that because, and I just want to reassure folks that, everything doesn't have to be a threat level 10 to be a good comic.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right about the villains, certain villains, Penguin might be able to take over one of the Gotham gangs and run it for a little while as a mobster, but not the whole city.
Yeah.
And just kind of put them in their place. The threat level tens are like your Bane, um,
Darkseid, Thanos.
yeah, Darkseid, Thanos, and those are your threat level tens. And every comic and every story doesn't have to have a threat level 10. I remember something somebody said once about doing a Justice League story. And of course, the Justice League had all the top heroes in it,
Mm-hmm.
and you had to come up with a threat that required all of their talents in order to contain it. So a Justice League villain had to be, super powerful. But those were like once a year kind of thing. Not
Yeah.
every day. Your average villain, you can write just a good a story with your average villain just, doing whatever and not taking over the world or the city.
One, I think this is where they've got to get the power levels of the villains that like the Joker's the best example of this, in my opinion, in that
Yeah.
the Joker randomly can be a brilliant chemist who can create a chemical that will time frozen things that will suddenly at a time locked thing unlock and poison the whole Justice League. It's like
Yeah.
where would the Joker have learned to do that, right?
Yeah.
Or he'll have this different abilities where he can fight Batman all of a sudden, and it's like Batman and Joker in a physical confrontation is a joke. These guys are not going hand to hand. Like the Joker may have tricks and gadgets and gas thing and acid and stuff like that. But they'll just write the villain so inconsistently that I think they got to get back to some semblance of the villain has a set power set that they can unlock or a set talent set like the Joker that they have. lastly for me on this, and I think this hits your boy the Flash the most, and the TV show to me was the best example of this. We need variation in the villains. I remember the Flash TV show. First season, evil speedster. Second season, evil speedster. Third season, evil
Evil
speedster.
speedster, right?
And it's like that
Yeah,
to me. I understand. Maybe you have one or two characters who have the same power set who are a villain. Maybe you have was it Zoom and the Reverse Flash, right? And you can have
yeah.
them have the same thing. But I think again, I would point to Spider-Man. Venom was such a cool and unique character, and I love Carnage personally. So I think you could have had two. But now there's 50 million symbiotes out there. And it's like, okay, this is stupid. Now everybody's got a symbiote of a different, yeah, rainbow colored symbiotes out there now.
I was
And
gonna
it
say,
takes away the variety of it. I think when it comes to speedster villains, when it comes Kryptonians, the evil Kryptonian villains that are out there, it's like, can we just have it be Zod? I mean, all of a sudden now 50 people survived Krypton to threaten Superman.
yeah.
I think they need to get back to where there is more individualism with those villains, where they all have that particular skill set. That drives me crazy personally. I know for the Flash, that's hit a lot. For you, how do you feel about when they have like almost repetitive type of villains?
Yeah, it was kind of crazy back in the day when they had every other person in Central City had some kind of meta-human power, and a lot of it was, Speedy related. There are too many. I mean, I do love some of the ancillary characters like Max Mercury and what have you, but as far as the villains that have the Flash's powers, there really should be, in my mind, only one.
Yeah.
And and that's just the way I think most fans probably feel about it. Too many speedsters is too many speedsters, and then at what point for villains like Flash always had the great gadget villains, and then of course Gorilla Grodd. The gadget villains were good, but it's not like we're out of ideas. I mean, you could always come up with another gadget villain. You could always come up with another regular villain,
Hmm.
and that's why these characters have endured for almost 100 years because the possibilities are limitless. And so I think cashing in on another villain's popularity and making an alternate villain, I think, the half-life is, it keeps diminishing on
Yep.
how well those are going to go over. And then eventually you'll have to, just come up with something new.
Yeah, I think it's really just what will fix villains more than anything is give them some gravitas again. I think that's the thing is, and look, with Silver Age comics and different ones,
But don't make the gravitas, the universe is at risk every week.
yeah, it's something
Yeah.
where what I used to love when I'd see the Joker in a comic book, you knew you were going to get a genuinely different threat than the rest of the time. And I think they never strike this balance. Now, I do think, look, it's not something that's completely modern because there are appearances in the 60s, 70s, and things like that where Joker gets wiped out in 20 pages and that's it. And it feels a little disappointing for a Joker story. But I do feel like it's okay to tell tales where Batman's just solving a mystery. It doesn't always have to be the superhero is the supervillain is taking over Gotham City. And I think that's the thing is I wish they would get back to a little bit of there's criminals in these universes that are just normal people that you can have you could do 10 to 12 issues of Batman stopping this kind of crime and that kind of crime. And then here comes the special thing of like, man, one of the big guys is on the board again. Here's the Joker, here's the Riddler or something like that. I just feel like we almost use these villains so much now that it kind of it's not there's nothing special about them. It's like we've seen this 1,500 times. And I think if you kind of save them a bit where it's like, okay, hey, when Bane shows up, it's an event instead of
And
just, oh, here's the next time Batman kicks the crap out of Bane.
and it's in the comic book lexicon now, the big bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is this season's big bad going to be, or what is this year's comic book big bad going to be? And it doesn't necessarily have to be, big. The story could be, something smaller, but maybe something a little more interesting, something original, a different villain, something we haven't seen before. I think that would spice things up a bit, and it wouldn't be the end of the world. if the comic book didn't have to do with the end of the world.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I think the big thing would be sometimes less is more. And I
Mm.
think that's the part of this is as a Batman fan, I'm just gonna flat out say this, and I think I said it in another video before. I'm sick of the Joker. I'm sick of every Batman plot being a Joker at the end. And like I love those Arkham games, but that every freaking Arkham game ends with some struggle between Batman and the Joker. I get it. He's the most popular villain. It's like there's 15 to 20 great rogues in Batman's gallery. It doesn't always have to be the Joker. And I think much like the great horror characters, like I think Jaws is the best example. Sometimes just the fact that Jaws is out there, but you don't see him and you don't
Yeah.
know where he is for some of the movie, but then when he shows up, it's like, oh crap,
It's a
there's
big deal.
Jaws.
Yeah.
I think if you treated the Joker more like that, where it's you don't see him much, you don't really, and then when the Joker pops up, it's like, oh crap. I think if they went to some of that, but we see these characters with such regularity now, it almost borders on being unspecial when they come up, and unless they have a character. I think one unique villain that stands out to me is Deathstroke in that he regularly has his own comic book. But the reason his comic book works is he's kind of just a mercenary, so you can always just write merc tales like John Wick with superheroes for Deathstroke. He's never really portrayed as a good guy. He's basically it's a hitman comic book. And I think that's why he's been one of the only villains who can maintain his own comic book, is that you don't have to involve the superheroes with him at all to give us a story that we need. I think for these other ones where they've so much had, we're like, there's really no point in the Reverse Flash showing up in a story unless Barry's there or Wally. And so I think for those ones, less is more. It's better if we don't see them. And hey, once every 5 years you get a Reverse Flash story. That I think, especially in this age of where it's unfair for these writers now, is they have 60, 70, 80 years with some of these characters of tales that have already been told. And so I think with some of these guys, this might be the 50th Joker story. Let's give it 5 years to build, and then we put the Joker in for a special story.
Yeah.
I just think that would bring some of it back. But that would be our ideas of fixing some of these villains. Mike, any closing thoughts on this at all?
No, we do love a good villain. We do love to hate a good villain,
Mm-hmm.
and less is more. No more end of the universe for a little while. We need a break.
Yeah, no. If it's the end of the universe, it needs to be Galactus Dark Side or something like that, but not
Right, right.
not
Not
uh,
the
not Emperor
Joker.
Joker trying to rule the world or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
But let us know. What do you guys think down below? What would you to do to fix the current state of villains in the big two? And again, we want to specify this is the big two. We're talking about, I think indies do a great job with their villains as of late. And there's a lot of great comics to do that. As always, folks, thank you so much for watching. God bless you. You have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.